Hello, how are
Hey.
you? Oh, I've got two students here today. Awesome. Hi, Nora. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Did you have a good holiday season?
Yes. How about you?
Yeah, it was okay. Pretty normal. Nothing special.
Nora, you're up in the mountains, aren't you?
Yeah, it's snowing.
I was going to ask if it's snowing right now.
Yeah.
Oh, has it been snowing all day?
No, it just started around 2 hours ago.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all right, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, I'll go ahead and mute everyone. All right. Here we go. Let's start off with common words. Candy, quarter, campus, afterward, freeze, collar, closely, heaven, spare, similar, bark, American, disturb, coach, mask, flicker, surprisingly, feather, rid, flirt, pathetic, spat, proceed, handsome, abruptly, begun, New York, recently, pot, supply, tower, awful, risk, pity, customer, pad, signal, skill, bleed, engine, frozen, fate, topic, sniff, design, flop, strap, defense, jog, map, toilet, background, strike, grimace, fry, luckily, contain, pride, survive, yep, interview, sweater, retort, holiday, shutter, spider, whistle, captain, west, makeup, blast, drawer, eaten, agreement, adult, cheap, dull, glove, leap, prince, road, mid, major, expensive, clue, hazel, snatch, owner, peak, bubble, rent, teen, suspect, tour, cheese, yank, sometime, ability, irritate, sand. All right. I've got some sentences that focus on common briefs that we hear. Some of them might be a little different, but most of them are pretty basic. So I'm going to go down the list, and if there's anything that you want me to tell you, just let me know, and you can write it in the chat box, okay? All right, so we're going to hear innocent, instruction, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, left hand side, marijuana, northbound, northerly, northern, ownership, partnership, pedestrian, red light, relationship, reporter, restaurant, right hand side, roadway, Roy, southbound, southerly, southern, street light, tail light, traffic light, westerly, westbound, western, yellow light, agree, agreement, alcohol, alcoholic, article, as a matter of fact, at or about, burden, confidence, confident. So they have confidence as initial K, final FD, and then confident is initial K, final FT. All right. So just let me know if you guys have any other questions. Okay. What's at or about? That's AORB. AORB. At or about. AORB. I love that one. All right. So here are your sentences. I think she is innocent. If you follow the instruction, you'll be fine. And then ownership is OIP. OIP. Okay. Yeah, let me know if there's any other ones, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. I wish I could write with my left hand. The dog was on the left-hand side. I have never smoked marijuana. The wind is going northbound. The ship sails northerly. I love Northern California. He claimed ownership of the animal. It was a partnership with them. Do not hit the pedestrian, even if they walk slowly. The girl ran the red light. We have a great relationship. The reporter asked many questions. Fred took me to a nice restaurant. Kelly writes with her right hand. I live on the right-hand side. There was a man walking on the roadway. Roy is a very odd man. I saw the car driving southbound. The kite flew in a southerly direction. He had a southern accent. The car had wrapped around the street light. I was looking at his tail light as I hit him. I cannot see the traffic light from here. I am heading in a westerly direction. The police were westbound on the freeway. I like western bars. It was a yellow light I ran. I agree, this is good food. We had an agreement. I don't drink alcohol much. I am not an alcoholic. With each turn, an article was removed. As a matter of fact, I don't like fish. It happened at or about 4 o'clock. Mick is a beast of burden. He has confidence in himself. She is confident that she passed. All right. All right. Now, these are going to be words that end with SH and CH. Here we go. Dash, bitch, stash, stitch, gnash, touch, dish, ditch, mash, match, wish, witch, lash, latch, flash, leech, push, peach, trash, peach, hash, hatch, bash, beach, hush, hutch, slash, hitch, rush, reach, splash, splotch, blush, blotch, mush, notch, bash, batch, wash, watch, sash, such, clash, clutch, stash, stitch, posh, pitch, cash, catch, leash, botch, fish, fetch, crash, crutch, rash, rich. All right. Now I've got some states and numbers. Here we go. Ready? Montana, 4,402. Kentucky, 3,553. Missouri, 12,312. Mississippi, 26,080. Michigan, 146,198. Pennsylvania, 36,082. Louisiana, 46,115. Nebraska, 3,496. New Jersey, 91,652. West Virginia, 6,782. Wyoming, 5,108. Nevada, 1,803. Maryland, 6,750. Virginia, 25,903. South Dakota, 9,475. Rhode Island, 5,173. Oregon, 39,431. And Vermont, 1,152. Okay, now moving into a basic brief review. We've got convenience, V long E-N-S, convenient, V long E-N, recognize, R-O-G, upon, P-O-N, possible, P-O-B-L, and particular, P-L final R. Leave out the A so it doesn't become police car. I do that a lot, kind of my weakness there. I've always done that. It makes me so mad when I do that. Okay, here are your sentences. Ready? It is not possible. What is convenient? We recognize the inconvenience. Are you particular about it? Please send full particulars upon receipt of this email. The store is not conveniently located. Were you recognized? It will depend upon a possible answer. I like the convenience. Richard is adept at recognizing possible problems. Depend upon it. It is a matter of convenience. We want that particular one. We rely upon your suggestion. What are the possibilities? Plan to use that particular one. I recognize them. Is it convenient or not? 3 o'clock would be inconvenient. I recognize the convenience. Don't be so particular. It is a convenience store. He took it upon himself. We could possibly run some tests upon that when it is convenient. That is hardly possible. The possibilities are not pleasant. When would it be convenient to see you upon a matter of particular importance? It has all the conveniences of home. Were you recognized? I think recognizing the problem is half the battle. Mr. Richards is extremely particular. Could you possibly arrange to be here by 6 o'clock? If that is not convenient, we could possibly arrange another time, but I particularly want you to give us your advice on these possibilities. You can depend upon our discretion in the matter. We recognize that this is a particularly sensitive issue. All right, let's give you some medical words. Here we go. Ready? Gastric, appendicitis, acoustic, testosterone, metabolism, bleeding, dyspnea, aneurysm, prescribes, musculature, injury, cerebral, subluxation, death, fracture, symptomatology, plantar, brain, transverse, broken, dentist, cystocele, melanoma, nephropexy, mastectomy, colostomy, cardiac, myelogram, vertebral, dorsal, tumor, pathology, thoracic, cranium, and amniocentesis. All right. Now, focusing on final ST words, so using the FT for ST, okay? All right, here we go. I'm going to give you the words before I give you the sentences. Faster, poster, foster, duster, alabaster, plaster, sister, I know there's a brief for that, but pester, master, toaster, coaster, caster, Easter, jester, fester, roaster. All right, and then here are your sentences. Some of these are just one syllable as well. Make haste to lower the mast. Just run as fast as you can. There was heavy mist last night. She boasted about her new post. The rust forms very fast. It is the best paste I have used. Don't jest about the bad roast. Where does east meet west? I trust the toast is not burned. Do you trust him to do the posting? There was a heavy mist last night. Just run as fast as you can. I trust they removed the cyst. At least show good taste. I posted the email yesterday. The test is the least of my worries. Last month we did it in haste, but this time we hired an artist, and I trust it will be a better job. The new ad must be pasted up. You should eat the crust on your bread. Houses are more expensive on the coast. These days, somebody is always protesting something. Do I turn east or west when I reach the highway? Check the exhaust pipe on the truck. I just heard a funny noise. My sister uses a feather duster. I think he saw a ghost. Don't pester me for a cookie. Just let me know the answer. The caster came off the chair. The toaster is not working. It would be faster to do it my way. I know I can master the course. The statue is alabaster. The walls are made from plaster. The twister destroyed the house. You need to muster up some strength. Why don't you protest the decision? The rust needs to be removed. Do you trust him to tell the truth? The email was posted a week ago. He was exhausted after the race. The taste of the drug is bitter. John has the role of the court jester. My new shoes rubbed blisters on my heels. When is Easter vacation this year? Stop pestering me to go faster. East is east and west is west. Have you ridden the new roller coaster? And then up at the top, they do have some one-syllable words. I just want to give you these because I didn't see these at first. So we have fast, last, taste, mast, toast, trust, mist, boast, paste, cyst, trust, rust, least, east, best, fast, west, haste, test, post, just, crust, coast. All right. Let's see here. We've got some names and addresses, and then we'll go into literary. Okay. All right, here we go. Tammy A. Gavisk, Gavisk, 73 Olive Street, Boland, New York, 14715. Laura M. Terry, Terry, 481 North 150 East, Springfield, Utah, 84653. Christy G. Latsko, Latsko, 230 Loudon Avenue, Waynesboro, Virginia, 22980. Margie D. Johnson, 96 Bellevue Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island, 02907. Mr. Keith L. Lanzis, Lansis, 6405 Parrott Road, Fort Wayne, Indiana, 46803. Michelle R. Baker, Baker, 2550 Mika Drive, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49504. Larry R. Anderson, Anderson, Lavator Public Schools, Independent School District number 306, Lavator, Minnesota, 56461. Donna L. Pig, Pigg, 4380 South I Street, Pueblo, Colorado, 81054. Mr. Drew A. Coleman, Coleman, Millsburg Area High School, 780 Center Street, Millersburg, Pennsylvania, 17061. All right. Go ahead and get started with some literary. We did start this book that O.J. Simpson wrote that, the Gold Brown family got rights to. So we'll go ahead and pick up where we left off. Okay, and I will start at 120 and work my way to 160. Okay. All right, here we go. And this is called The Night in Question. So they claim that they didn't change any words. They just changed the name of the book to Confessions of the Killer. All right, here we go. Ready? He snatched it out of my hand, pissed. You've got to learn to relax, Charlie, I said. Then I opened the door, got out of the Bronco, and stole across the alley. Nicole's condo was one of 2 units, both of them long and narrow, mirror images of each other, fused at the middle. They each had their own entry on Bundy, and they each had a back gate in the alley. But Nicole's back gate was broken. The buzzer didn't work properly, and the gate opened if you gave it a little push. I must have told her 1,000,000 times, please get the goddamn gate fixed. But the woman never listened. I slipped past the gate into the narrow courtyard and moved toward the front door, and right away I noticed lights flickering in the windows. I moved past the front door to take a closer look. There were candles burning inside, and I could hear faint music playing. It was obvious that Nicole was expecting company. I wondered who the fuck it was this time. I wondered if maybe Faye was coming over with some of her boy toys so that they could all get wild and dirty while my kids were sleeping upstairs. Just as I was beginning to get seriously steamed, the back gate squeaked open. A guy came walking through like he owned the fucking place. He saw me and froze. He was young and good looking, with a thick head of black hair, and I tried to place him, but I'd never seen him before. I didn't even know his name, Ron Goldman. Who the fuck are you? I asked. Well, I just came by to return a pair of glasses, he replied, stammering. Really? A pair of glasses? Yes, he said. He was carrying an envelope. Judy left them at the restaurant. I'm a waiter at Mezzaluna. So it's Judy, is it? You're on a first name basis with Judy? At that moment, the gate behind Goldman squeaked again. Charlie walked into the narrow space. He was carrying the knife. Everything cool here? He asked. I saw this guy walking through the gate, and I just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be any trouble. This motherfucker wants me to believe that he's here dropping off a pair of Judy's glasses, I said. I am, Goldman said, appearing increasingly nervous. He held up an envelope. Look for yourself. And then what? I said. You are going back to the restaurant? No, he said. My shift is over. I'm just leaving these here and going home. You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything, he said. I'm telling you the truth. You're a fucking liar, I shouted. I'm not. I swear to God, he said. She's got candles burning inside, fucking music playing, probably a nice bottle of red wine, breathing on the counter, waiting for you. Not for me, Goldman protested. I said, fuck you, man. You think I'm a fucking idiot or stupid? Suddenly, the door opened. Nicole came outside. She was wearing a slinky little cocktail dress, black, with probably not much on underneath. Her mouth fell open in shock. She looked at me, and she looked at Goldman, and she looked at Charlie just beyond. Goldman was pretty well trapped. Charlie stood between him and the rear gate, and I was barring his way to the front. OJ, what the fuck is going on? She asked. I turned to look at Nicole. That's what I want to know, I said. Cato the dog came wandering out of the house. He saw me and wagged his tail. And then he saw Goldman and also wagged his tail. I looked at Goldman, steamed, and Charlie moved closer, the knife still in his hand. I think he sensed that things were about to get out of control because I was very close to losing it. I'm listening, motherfucker, I said to Goldman. OJ, Nicole hollered. Leave him alone. What are you doing here anyway? I thought you were going to Chicago. Fuck you, I said. Hey man, Goldman said. That's not necessary. Charlie piped in. Let's get the fuck out of here, OJ. I asked you a question, motherfucker. What are you doing here? Are you delivering drugs? Leave him alone, OJ, Nicole shouted. I hear half you assholes are dealing on the side, I said. Nicole came at me swinging. Get the fuck out of here, she said. This is my house, and I can do what I want. Not in front of my kids, you can't. Fuck you, she said. No, fuck you. I gave you everything you could ask for, and you fucked it all up. She came at me like a banshee, all arms and legs flailing, and I ducked, and she lost her balance and fell against the stoop. She fell hard on her right side. I could hear the back of her head hitting the ground, and she lay there for a moment, not moving. Jesus Christ, OJ, let's get the fuck out of here, Charlie said, his voice cracking. I looked over at Goldman, and I was fuming. I guess he thought I was going to hit him because he got into his little karate stance. What the fuck is that? I said. You think you can take me with your karate shit? He started circling me, bobbing and weaving, and if I hadn't been so fucking angry, I would have laughed in his face. OJ, come on. It was Charlie again pleading. Nicole moaned, regaining consciousness. She stirred on the ground and opened her eyes and looked at me, but it didn't seem like anything was registering. Charlie walked over and planted himself in front of me, blocking my view. We are fucking done here, man. Let's go. I noticed the knife in Charlie's hand, and in one deft move, I removed my right glove and snatched it up. We're not going anywhere, I said, turning to face Goldman. Goldman was still circling me, bobbing and weaving, but I didn't feel like laughing anymore. You think you're tough, motherfucker, I said. I could hear Charlie just behind me saying something, urging me to get the fuck out of there. And at one point, he even reached for me and tried to drag me away. But I shook him off hard and moved toward Goldman. Okay, motherfucker, I said. Show me how tough you are. Then something went horribly wrong, and I know what happened, but I can't tell you exactly how. I was still standing in Nicole's courtyard, of course, but for a few moments I couldn't remember how I'd gotten there, when I'd arrived, or even why I was there. Then it came back to me very slowly, the recital, with Sydney up on stage, dancing her heart out, me chipping balls into my neighbor's yard, Paula angry, not answering her phone, Charlie stopping by my house to tell me more ugly shit about Nicole's behavior. Then what? The short, quick drive from Rockingham to the Bundy condo. And now? Now I was standing in Nicole's courtyard in the dark, listening to the loud, rhythmic, accelerated beating of my own heart. I put my left hand to my heart, and my shirt felt strangely wet. I looked down at myself. For several moments, I couldn't get my mind around what I was seeing. The whole front of me was covered in blood, but it didn't compute. Is this really blood? I wondered. And whose blood is it? Is it mine? Am I hurt? So we'll stop there. I'll read more tomorrow. So this was actually what he wrote after his trial. So after he was the first trial, after it was announced that he was innocent, then he wrote this. Like, if this is what happened, this is the way it happened. So it's pretty detailed. It's pretty eerie, I should say. All right, let's do some jury charge. Okay, the subject here is income tax fraud. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before proceeding with the court's charge, I want to join with counsel for the government and the defendant in expressing our most appreciative thanks to you for the services you have rendered here and the service that you have yet to perform in this case. I have observed that you have been most attentive to everything that the lawyers, witnesses, and the court had to say, and I have observed also that you have been very punctual in attending, and I know that you will complete your service here in the best traditions of our federal courts. As you have been told, it now becomes the responsibility and the obligation of the court to charge and instruct you in respect to the law, which you will apply to the facts as you find the facts to be from the evidence which has been introduced in this case. Evidence both spoken from the witness stand and the documentary exhibits which have been admitted into evidence. The court proposes also to deliver instructions for your guidance in your consideration of the evidence and in your deliberations upon this case. The instructions which the court will give you insofar as they pertain to the principles of law applicable to the case. And this I said to you before you came on to the jury, must be accepted by you as a binding control and guide in your consideration of the evidence and in your deliberations. You will recall when you were examined and later accepted as jurors that the lawyers for both the government and the defendant agreed that you might serve as jurors on the basis of the answers which you made when you were questioned as to your qualifications. The answers you then made to those questions in regard to your competency, qualifications, and your fairness are as binding upon you now as they were then, and should so remain until you are finally discharged from further responsibility and consideration of this case. It would be improper and unlawful for any of you to disregard the answers that rendered you competent to serve as jurors in this case. Now again, I tell you that the responsibility rests upon you to determine the facts in this case. It is your exclusive function under the law, as the court may give it to you, uninfluenced by any expression of opinion that the court has made or may hereafter make on any matters of fact. Now, as we all know, this is a so-called criminal case. The law in such cases is that the defendant comes into court presumed to be innocent, and that such presumption protects the defendant until such time, if and until such time shall come, when you believe from the evidence in the case, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant is guilty as charged in the indictment. You should consider the presumption of innocence with all the other evidence in the case and weigh it carefully. And if, from such consideration of the evidence, you have a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant, then you should find him not guilty. The indictment in this case will be sent to the jury room with you. You will have an opportunity to examine it and to read it carefully. It consists of one count charging in substance that the defendant unlawfully, willfully, and knowingly gave $40,000 to Mr. Tillman, an officer and employee of the United States, as the defendant well knew, with the intent to influence Mr. Tillman's decision and action on the matter of the audit made by Tillman of the personal income tax returns of the defendant for the years 2006 and 2007. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Mark Fisher, gave $40,000 to Mr. Tillman, and that Mr. Tillman was an officer or employee of the United States. Before you can find the defendant guilty of the charge in the indictment, you must find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant did this act with intent to influence the decisions and actions of Mr. Tillman. So I started at 120 and I worked my way to 160, okay? All right, let's go ahead and do some Q&A. All right. All right. First one is going to be court. Okay. All right, and this looks like plaintiff right now, but it's going to jump over to defense in a second. Okay, and I'll start at 120, work my way to 160. What was the amount? I don't know the exact amount. And when was that it was repaid? I believe sometime in 2008, probably around April or May of 2008. April or May, but you're saying that that wasn't for payment on the loan? No, it wasn't. No further questions on this issue, Your Honor. Ms. Hendrickson? Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Netter, did you ever have any conversations with your husband regarding this particular $120,000 check? Are you referring to when we were getting it initially? Yes, at the time that you received the check. Did you have any conversations with your husband about that check? Just the fact that his father was going to make us a gift. He was dying of cancer, and it was my understanding that he was giving the children gifts before he died. Did Mr. Netter ever tell you that this was a loan? No. Did in fact he tell you that this was a gift? Yes. Did he ever tell you that there was any written agreement regarding this as being a loan? No. Did you in fact use this money as a down payment on a home that you then purchased? Yes. Did you purchase this home under FHA government regulations? Yes, we did. And as part of that purchase, were you required to provide a gift letter to FHA regarding the characterization of this $120,000 check? Yes, we were. And did you and your husband indicate to the mortgage company that was handling that loan that this was in fact a gift? Yes, we did. And did your husband join in that information? Yes, he did. Now you subsequently sold that home, didn't you? Yes, we did. And did you pay back any of this $120,000 amount at the time you sold that house? No, we did not. Did Mr. Netter, your ex-husband, ask you to pay back that amount to his parents? No, he did not. Was there any discussion regarding whether or not that should be? No, there wasn't. Did you then use the proceeds from the sale of that home to purchase another home? Yes, we did. Was there any discussion at the time you purchased that other home that this money should be used as a loan? No. In fact, there were never any discussions until the time of this divorce that would be a loan? Correct. I have no further questions, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Anderson. Nothing further of this witness. All right, you may step down. Thank you, ma'am. Any further evidence, Mr. Anderson? Yes, Your Honor. I'll call the petitioner. Mr. Netter, please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you shall give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, So help you God. I do. Please be seated. Will you state your full name for the record? Steve John Netter. Go ahead. Thank you. Do you recall receiving a check for $120,000? Yes, I do. And do you remember approximately when that was? Approximately January 29th, a few days after. May I approach, Your Honor? Yes, you may. Showing you Exhibit 14, would you take a look at that? Is that the check that you received? Yes, it is. Do you recognize the writing on the face of that check? Yes, I do. And whose writing is that? That is my father's handwriting. And there's a notation that says loan on there. Is that correct? Yes. Is that his writing also? Yes, it is. Do you recall that being on the check when you received it? Absolutely. Can you tell me the circumstances surrounding the receipt of this check? Yes, my wife and I went back in November of '05. We informed my parents that we're, in fact, expecting a child. We said we wanted to buy a house. We asked for a loan. We discussed it at length with my parents. My dad was dying of cancer, and he wanted to first. Let me stop you right there. Did he die? Yes, he did. When was that? It was April of '06. Approximately how long after that check was written? Approximately 3 months. Okay, proceed. He was dying of cancer, and he didn't want to give us an answer right away, of course. He wanted to check with finances that he, in fact, had. He did discuss it with both my sisters and, his wife, my mom, and then they decided in January that they would give us the loan, and they specifically told us it was a loan, and it was for the benefit of my mom, and we discussed the terms, and it was to be repaid to her because he knew he was dying. It was incurable cancer. What were the terms? Well, what my father wanted, it was a 3-year note payable at a simple 5% interest to be paid back in one lump sum. And how were you supposed to come up with the money to pay that back? He suggested we either get a second or sell the house. By that time, in 3 years, the real estate market hopefully would go up and we could make improvements on the house. Did you ever discuss this loan with the respondent? Yes. Has she said anything recently about her recognizing that it was a loan? We did have a telephone conversation during the inroads here. What did she say about it? She said she did actually admit that my father did give us a loan, but she was not going to pay my mother back one red dime. Now, this was a loan. Was anything ever paid? Yes, it was. How much? We paid the $2,000 interest for the 2 years that we did have the money. Did I say 2,000? I meant 20,000. Okay, when was that paid? It was paid in late May of 2008. Okay, and was there well, let me show you. I inadvertently have those unmarked, if that would be possible. Just mark the originals. Hand them to me, please. I have 15 and 16 marked for identification. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, counsel has not provided me with a copy yet of exhibit number 16, 15, and 16. I just handed her copies, Your Honor, representing that those are true and accurate copies of the exhibit. Would you take a look at, let's go to 16 first. Can you describe that exhibit? It's a letter. And who is it to? It's to my sister Diane. What is her last name? Diane Weckler. And is that dated? Is the letter dated? Yes, it is. And who wrote that letter? I wrote the letter. Did you write it back when it was dated? Yes, on June 1, 2008. How is it that you're in possession of it? I contacted my sister and she sent it back to me. Can you read it, please, Your Honor? Can he read it? It's only 2 pages. If I could have you read that letter. The letter is the best evidence, Mr. Anderson. Okay, does that letter discuss a loan? Yes, it does. Does it discuss an enclosure of a check? Yes, it does. Does it say how much the check is for? Yes, it does. How much is that check? $11,030. Did you testify to the total amount of interest that was owed? Yes, at that time. The total amount of interest owed was $13,000. $13,000. So this is short of the $13,000? Yes, it is. Was there any other sum of money paid? Yes, there was either a cashier's or certified check sent to my mother in the amount of $1,970, the difference. So $1,970 plus $11,030 makes the $13,000. Yes, it does. So why was it that this check was written to your sister? Because at the time, my mom had owed my sister this amount of money, and she asked that I forward this amount to her. I'm going to show you Exhibit 15. Can you describe that? This is a check dated May 30th, 2008, made out to Diane Weckler. And the amount? The amount is $11,030. Is that the check that was enclosed, you know, with this letter? Yes. Yes, sir. I believe it is. Okay, I'm just going to switch transcripts real quick so we get a variety. Okay. So I started at 120 and worked my way to 160. Okay. All right. All right, this is going to be deposition. We're almost done with this one, so let's see if we get through it today. All right, defense attorney. I guess more importantly, does he see you? Yes. Does he give you treatments? Yes. Similar to what you've previously described? Yes. Does that type of treatment seem to improve your condition? It does for about maybe 2 or 3 hours. I let it get just as bad as I can let it get before I go. And then I get the adjustment. Usually it eases up and the next day it's back again. Have you seen, I think we've covered this, but this psychiatrist you've seen, Dr. Vogt, I forget. Is there another doctor, another psychiatrist that you've seen? No. And he's now deceased? Yes. When did you last see Dr. Vogt? It was out at the hospital, and I was, 3 months. I was out of the hospital about almost 4 months, and 4 or 5. After about 7 months out of the hospital, I saw him. Okay, so that I understand, and so it's clear to you. You went in the hospital in April 2009. You were there, as I understood it, about 3 months, which would take us up to about July of 2009. Then you saw him about 5 months after that? Yes. So up until about the 1st of 2010, is that correct? Yes. Why did you discontinue seeing him at that time? I couldn't afford his fees and our insurance ran out. With whom were you insured up until things ran out? Retail Clerks Union. And that was through your husband's insurance? Yes. Do you recall the name of the insurance carrier? No. How often did you see him per month before you discontinued seeing him? Well, when I was in the hospital, I saw him every day. After you were out of the hospital, how often did you see him? Maybe twice a day, or no, maybe twice the whole time out of the hospital. After you were discharged, you saw him? No, after I was discharged, I maybe saw him twice since then. Okay, so after roughly August 1st of 2009, I'm trying to give you a little leeway. You saw him twice, correct? Yes. Do you recall when you first saw him after you were released from the hospital? No. Do you recall when you last saw him after being released from the hospital? No. But those 2 times were still before January 1st, 2010? Yes. Am I correct? You've seen no other doctors other than Dr. Vogt? No. So I get it correct. Have you seen anyone other than Dr. Vogt as a psychiatrist since the date of the accident? Dr. Geffen. When did you first see Dr. Geffen? About 6 months ago. When did you go to see him? For a reevaluation of my case. To see how I was doing. Did anyone suggest you go see Dr. Geffen? Yes. Who was that? Mr. Saki. Your lawyer? Yes. How many times have you seen Dr. Geffen? You first saw him about 6 months ago. How many times have you seen him? I've seen him about 5 times. When did you last see him? I first saw him about 6 months ago. I saw him like 5 days in a row, and then I discontinued seeing him. So you virtually saw him 6 months ago, minus 1 week? Yes. Have you seen any other psychiatrist since the accident? No. Have you seen any other medical doctor besides Dr. Vogt, Dr. Geffen, and Dr. Bure? And Dr. Sasaki is a doctor of chiropractic. Have you seen any other type of practitioner of the medical arts? Gynecologist. Who have you seen? Dr. Anderson. Go ahead, give him his first name. Albert. Where is his office located? It's in Redlands. Okay, and do you know what address? No, I only know it's on Terracina Avenue. And why have you seen Dr. Anderson? For the D&C. That's why you were at Redlands Community Hospital? Yes, it is. Have you seen any other person for any other medical reason other than the people you've previously mentioned? No. Or for any mental condition that you may have? No. Have you been hospitalized anywhere other than at San Antonio and at Redlands Community Hospital since the accident? No. In the 10 years before the accident of April 8, 2009, were you examined by any doctor for any ailment or symptom to your neck? No. Were you examined or treated by any doctor or chiropractor or anyone for any condition to your back? I had seen a psychiatrist when I was a teenager and periodically a chiropractor. A chiropractor I've seen, not a psychiatrist. A chiropractor I've seen. Who was that? There have been several different ones. I can't recall their names. It's just do you recall in what community they had their offices in? San Bernardino. There was one I saw in San Bernardino. Do you recall when you saw him? No, it was a long time ago. No, I don't recall. We're talking about before the accident? Yes. Do you have any idea how soon or on a time estimate, how soon before April 8, 2009? I hadn't been to see one in quite a while since No. So that last half was at 160. Okay. All right. How'd you guys do?
Pretty good.
Good. Good. Do you guys have a brief for chiropractor?
No.
No. I
I do. Oh, sorry.
I do kike. I do K long IK. Yeah, but there's probably so many out there.
Do you have one for a psychologist?
No, I write that out, which
Or a psychiatrist, actually.
yeah, there's both. Yeah, psychiatrists, psychologists, and that's why I never had briefs for them, because I never wanted to get the two confused, So do you have one, Catherine, for psychologist, psychiatrist?
Well, my ologist ending is OLGS, so that kind of helps. So I do so I do it in 2 strokes.
Yeah, psych and then OLGS for ologist.
That's worked for me.
That's a good one.
But I was writing psychiatrist. I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing. I think I just did psychiatrist. I don't know.
That is typically what I do for psychiatrists. I'll do psych, and then I come back for just RIFT, RIFT, psychiatrist, and I know that that's psychiatrist.
Okay. Yeah, I was doing psychiatrist.
Yeah, that's good. Psychiatrist. Yeah, because they both start off with psych, so to have a brief, it's kind of hard because you almost have to wait for, is it psychologist or psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
So tricky. But I do know there's got to be briefs out there for them. But I used to get them mixed up, and finally I just said, okay, forget it. I'm going to write it out, But you can always shorten it at least to make it a little easier,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, so no other questions about the briefs that we went over? You guys?
No. I did have a question about when we're working. That is because my relatives kind of jokingly asked me what kind of cases we listen to sometimes. Are we allowed to talk about that, or is it like a confidentiality thing? Or
when you're working? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, when you're working as a deposition reporter, I would not talk about the case because they're still acquiring like all the discovery evidence. So definitely, like I remember specifically like divorce cases, definitely not, and so I might go home and talk about the case, but I never gave names. And then like our transcripts now, the dates have been changed, the names have been changed, even though now it's public record. So basically when it goes to court, if you work in court, you still don't want to talk about the case. It's kind of like being a juror, you don't want until the case has, now once the jury comes back and says whether or not they're guilty, not guilty, then you can talk about it because it becomes public record, Yeah.
Because I usually I do tell them, no, I can't talk about it, but they just kind of be like, oh, come on, it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's just like being on a jury, and you definitely, like, I know, because I was a deposition reporter and I would come home and talk about it to my family, but I never talked about, like, I never gave names, you know what I mean? And there was a time where, I don't know if I told you guys this before, but it's a small, it's a small world. Like one time I went to a deposition and, I don't know if I told you guys this, but the two attorneys, the defense and the plaintiff attorney, they were kind of buddying up with each other before the plaintiff got there, and or the claimant, and it was a divorce case, and they were talking about this lady, how she found her husband in bed with another man, and I they're laughing, and well, then here she, so she joins us, and she walks in the room, and I knew who she was. Like it was somebody that, like, I knew from my childhood. It was the mom. So I had to ask the attorneys to step outside, and I said, I know who this lady is. And first of all, they about died because here they're talking about this poor lady, and I think they felt really bad, and they were probably worried because they could get in trouble for doing that, but they had to call my agency and they had to bring in another reporter. And when she saw me, her eyes got so big, and I didn't say anything like hi, or I just asked the attorneys to go outside, and then they got another reporter, and I went on another job that day. But definitely, if you know somebody, you have to speak up,
Mm-hmm.
and even but sometimes it doesn't matter. Like I know Baylin, the other speed teacher at Sage, she had to go to Riverside Court once, and she was selected on the jury. But it was interesting because the court asked the jurors, like, do you guys know anybody, are there any conflicts? And Baylin spoke up and said, I know the court reporter, that was one of my students years ago. And so the court asked the court reporter, like, do you have a problem that you know her? And he said, no, I don't have a problem. They said, okay. And they let her stay. So, it's just interesting because I guess it depends on the case and the judge or the attorneys. But definitely if it's definitely if they're worried about it, then they're going to put somebody else, on that case. So if it's a conflict of interest, like in that case where I was the reporter, and here this lady is, she's going through this horrible case, they definitely did not want me to have to take her testimony because it's their discovery and they want to find out, and they didn't want her to hold back. So I was glad that I got to, that they put another reporter in that day. I mean, what are the chances of me knowing who this lady was? It was awful. And I hope that, well, I'm sure those attorneys probably learned a lesson to never talk like that again, because I was thinking, man, this poor lady. And then here she walks in and I knew who she was. So,
it's crazy.
I know. And I don't even know. I let my agency know, like, hey, they were very unprofessional, just talking about this lady and how she was going to, even the defense attorney representing the claimant was like, oh yeah, she's going to take my client to the cleaners, and just joking the whole time. And I just thought, man, this is so it was just uncomfortable. But then for me to know who it was, I told my agency, I said, you can do what you want with it. And I don't know if she ever said anything to them like, hey, you guys are going to talk like that. Don't talk like that around the reporter. Because it's uncomfortable. You're supposed to be, unbiased, and I don't know. The whole thing was just crazy. So, yeah.
And it's one of those things where even if you saw her name maybe on the notice, you might not realize who it was until.
Exactly.
So,
because she did
usually, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say she did have a different last name, because I think it was like her second marriage. So she had a different last name from what I remember, like from what her daughter had. So, it's just, and I never told her daughter that you know what I mean? Like you're friends with people on Facebook, and no, I never said anything like, oh, I showed up at a deposition and your mom, never. You just keep that to yourself, and, try to be as, unbiased as you can, and try not to show facial expressions, even though sometimes you hear shocking things. I don't know if I told you guys about this in theory, but I took a deposition once about this man that got knocked out in the bathroom at like an AM PM because the air conditioning unit came out of the ceiling. It broke and it came down on him and it knocked him out. And the poor guy, I mean, the attorneys are asking him like, were you sitting down? Were you standing up? And, you just try so hard to just not have any kind of any facial expressions, because you want them to be open and honest, and not be embarrassed, even though it's got to be horrible,
Mm-hmm.
So he was suing the AM/PM for, and the air conditioning unit, the company that owned that, suing a couple of different people. So you hear some bizarre off the wall things like, wow, what are the chances of that happening?
Mm-hmm.
Anything and everything you're going to hear. Like it's almost like you kind of become you hear so many different things that you would think that you would never hear, like down to the littlest things, like I'm suing a silverware company because the metal was chipping off of it and I choked, or you know what I mean? Just any little thing you're going to hear. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for answering the question.
Yeah, you're You're welcome. All right, you guys. Well, are you planning on being here? Can you come tomorrow?
I hope so. I'm not sure about the morning. The evening I should definitely be here. But I'm
Okay.
not sure about the morning.
Good. All right. Well, I hope you guys can join me anytime. I love to have you in live class. All right. Have a great evening.
You too.
You too. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.